ব্যাপারটা আর কি অ্যাড্রেস করতে পারবো। সো আমাদের স্ক্রিনটা আমি গত দিন খেয়াল করেছিলাম 4:3, সো 4:3 আর কি বানানোর চেষ্টা করেছি প্রেজেন্টেশনটা। সো আমি আমার প্রেজেন্টেশনটাতে অ্যাজিউম করে নিচ্ছি যে আপনারা সবাই স্ক্রাম প্রসেসটা অলরেডি খুব ভালোভাবে জানেন এবং স্ক্রাম প্রসেসের যেই আর্টিফ্যাক্টগুলো আছে সেই আর্টিফ্যাক্টগুলো আর কি আপনারা আর্টিফ্যাক্টগুলোর ডিটেলসগুলো জানেন আর কি। কিন্তু আমি এখানে কিছু কিছু জায়গাতে স্পেসিফিক্যালি ফোকাস করার চেষ্টা করব যেটা বিভিন্ন জায়গাতে বিভিন্ন প্রবলেম আর কি সলভ করে। সো একটা ব্যাপার হচ্ছে কি যে স্ক্রাম প্রসেসটা যখন আমি দেখি, মানে এটা একটা ফান্ডামেন্টাল রিয়েলিটি আমি যেটা আর কি বিভিন্ন জায়গাতে ফেস করেছি। শ্যাল আই কন্টিনিউ ইন বাংলা? কেউ কি আছে? Is there anybody who does not understand Bangla? No, okay, excellent. So তাহলে আমি বাংলাতেই কথা বলি। সো ব্যাপার যেটা যে there was a company, very admired company, US based, so they kind of failed. One of the reason is because they said that they will not do any project যদি স্ক্রাম না হয়। সো কেউ যদি ফিক্সড প্রাইস প্রজেক্ট নিয়ে আসে তখন তারা করে না, এবং কেউ যদি বলে যে স্ক্রাম করবো না তাহলে তারা করে না। স্ক্রামের আর্টিফ্যাক্টগুলো বুঝায় তারপরে কেউ যদি রাজি না হয় তাহলে করে না। সো মানে they were very fixated on the process than the reality, but process কিন্তু প্রসেসের কাজ হচ্ছে রিয়েলিটিকে সার্ভ করা, রিয়েলিটির কাজ কিন্তু প্রসেসকে সার্ভ করা না। সো আমাদেরকে রিয়েলিটিটাকে এমব্রেস করতে হবে, যেটা আর কি গতকালকে সম্ভবত টড লিটল বলতেছিল যে থিঙ্কিং লাইক ওয়াটার। যে সাপোজ আপনারা যদি ওই যে ব্রুসলির যে ছোট ভিডিওটা ওটা যদি দেখে থাকেন, দ্য পাওয়ার কামস ফ্রম ওয়াটার। সো এরকম হতে পারে যে কাস্টমার মে নট কমপ্লাই উইথ স্ক্রাম, যে এরকম হতে পারে যে সে স্ক্রাম করবে না, তাই না? যে আমাদেরকে তখন স্ক্রামের নলেজ এবং ভ্যালুটা বোঝা এবং পিএমপির নলেজ এবং ভ্যালুটা বোঝা, এই পাওয়ার দিয়ে আমাদেরকে এটাকে সলভ করা। সো সেই জায়গাটা থেকে আমি একটা সলিউশন নিয়ে আসছি। দিস ইজ ভেরি প্রেসক্রিপটিভ সলিউশন। আমি কিন্তু মানে স্ক্রাম পিএমপি নতুন যে ভার্সন স্ক্রাম সাপোজ ভার্সন 3 পিএমপি 7, এটা মোর ফিলোসফিক্যাল অ্যাঙ্গেলে গেছে, প্রিন্সিপাল অ্যাঙ্গেলে গেছে, ওরা আবার প্রেসক্রিপশন গুলাতে যাচ্ছে না। সো অনেক সময় দেখা যায় কি যে প্রিন্সিপাল থেকে প্রেসক্রিপশনে যাওয়ার জন্য যে উইজডমটা দরকার হয় আমাদের অনেক সময় থাকে না, এবং ধাক্কা খায় শেখা দরকার হয়। সো সেই জায়গাটাতে আমি একটু মোর প্রেসক্রিপটিভ ডিরেকশনে গিয়েছি, এবং সেখানে যে ধরাগুলো খাইছি সেই ধরা থেকে লার্নিংটা থেকে মোর একটা প্রেসক্রিপটিভ ডিরেকশনে গিয়েছি। তো সেই জায়গাটাতে একটা ডিসক্লেইমার যে আমি যেটা বলতেছি, যেহেতু এটা প্রেসক্রিপটিভ, এটা কিন্তু সব সিচুয়েশনে কাজ করবে না, এবং ক্লায়েন্টের স্পেসিফিক রিকোয়ারমেন্ট থাকতে পারে এবং সিচুয়েশনের স্পেসিফিক রিকোয়ারমেন্ট থাকতে পারে, তখন দিস মে নট ওয়ার্ক। সো আমি আমার একটু ছোট ইন্ট্রোডাকশন। আমি রাইসুল কবির, ব্রেইন স্টেশন শুরু করেছিলাম আমরা 4 জন পার্টনার মিলে। এখন আমরা মোর দেন 120 শেয়ার হোল্ডার্স অ্যান্ড পার্টনার্স, আলহামদুলিল্লাহ। সো উই আর ওয়ান অফ দ্য টপ 3 সফটওয়্যার কোম্পানি নাও, 843 পিপল আমাদের। আমাদের মেইন কাজ হচ্ছে ডেভ অর স্টাফ অগমেন্টেশন, যে সাপোজ আউটসোর্স করা, এটা আমাদের মেইন কাজ। এর বাইরে আমাদের কিছু প্রোডাক্ট আছে, যেমন ওয়ালেট, ইকেওয়াইসি, নিউ ব্যাংকিং, এরকম ডিজিটাল ব্যাংকিং, এরকম প্রোডাক্ট আছে। ইআরপি তে আমরা কাজ করি। ই কমার্সে আমরা ওয়ার্ল্ড ওয়াইড ওপেন সোর্স এন্টারপ্রাইজ গ্রেড ই কমার্সের জন্য ওয়ার্ল্ড ওয়াইড নাম্বার 1 ভেন্ডর, আলহামদুলিল্লাহ। এন্ড থ্যাংক ইউ। আর এর বাইরে আমরা অগমেন্টেড রিয়েলিটি, ভার্চুয়াল রিয়েলিটি, গেমিং, বিভিন্ন রকমের কাজ করি। এর বাইরে আরো কিছু কাজ করি। এখন আপনাদের মনে হতে পারে যে একটা কোম্পানি এতগুলো কাজ করে কিভাবে করে। আমরা যেটা করছি যে আমাদের কোম্পানিটাকে 8টা কোম্পানিতে ভাগ করে দিছি, যে 8টা স্ট্র্যাটেজিক বিজনেস ইউনিট, এক একটা বিজনেস ইউনিট এক একটা জায়গাতে ফোকাস করে, যে কারণে আমরা অনেকগুলো ভার্টিক্যাল আর কি কভার করছি। আমরা ইন্টারন্যাশনালি কাজ করি, আমাদের রেভিনিউ 65% ইন্টারন্যাশনাল থেকে আসে। ফরচুন 100 থেকে ওয়াই কম্বিনেটর স্টার্ট আপ আমাদের ক্লায়েন্ট আছে, আর 35% আমাদের ডোমেস্টিক থেকে। আমরা যেমন মাইজিপি অ্যাপ্লিকেশনটাতে কাজ করেছি, মাইবিএল অ্যাপ্লিকেশনটা পুরোটুকুই আমাদের। মাইজিপিতে এখনো আমরা কন্টিনিউয়াসলি ভার্সন আপডেট এবং নিউ ফিচার আমরা কাজ করছি। সিটি টাচ 2013 থেকে 2022 পর্যন্ত আমরা কাজ করেছি, পরে আরেকটা ইন্টারন্যাশনাল কোম্পানি এখন ম্যানেজ করছে। সো রিসেন্ট যেসব যদি কোনো কিছু থাকে সেটা আমাদের দোষ না। সো ইউনিট এর বাইরেও আরো বিভিন্ন অ্যাপ্লিকেশন আমরা আর কি কাজ করি। সো রিয়েলিটি ক্লায়েন্টের ফিক্সড প্রাইস প্রজেক্ট দরকার হয়। একটা ব্যাপার কি যে একটা লার্জ অর্গানাইজেশন কিভাবে করে চলে, হ্যাঁ, একটা লার্জ অর্গানাইজেশনে কিন্তু সিএফওর বাজেট তৈরি করা দরকার হয়। মানে সিএফও কিন্তু বলতে পারবে না যে কালকে বেতন দিতে পারবো না বিকজ উই হ্যাভ রান আউট অফ মানি। হ্যাঁ, সো সিএফও নিডস এ বাজেট। সো সিএফও বিভিন্ন ডিপার্টমেন্টে বাজেট দেয়, ডিপার্টমেন্ট সেই বাজেট অনুযায়ী তারা বিভিন্ন প্রজেক্টে বাজেট দেয়। সো বাজেট ইজ ভেরি ইম্পর্টেন্ট। এখন এই কারণে ফিক্সড প্রাইস প্রজেক্ট ইজ এ রিয়েলিটি। এবং ফর লার্জ অর্গানাইজেশন দেয়ার আর লট অফ স্টেক হোল্ডার্স। সো লট অফ স্টেক হোল্ডার যখন থাকছে তখন কিন্তু সো লার্জ অর্গানাইজেশনে যেটা হয় যে দেখা যায় অনেক স্টেক হোল্ডার থাকে। এখন যদি একটা ওপেন এন্ডেড একটা প্রজেক্ট কাউকে দিয়ে দেওয়া হয় তখন কিন্তু কেউ আবার যে প্রশ্ন করতে পারে যে আচ্ছা এখানে কি কোনো ডিলিং আছে নাকি। হ্যাঁ, সো রিয়েলিটি কিন্তু যে ফিক্সড প্রাইস প্রজেক্ট অনেক সময় আসলে প্র্যাকটিক্যালি থাকবে, হাউএভার সেখানে কিছু ফ্লেক্সিবিলিটিও থাকে। এখন এই ফ্লেক্সিবিলিটি গুলো আমাদেরকে বুঝতে হবে। এবং আরেকটা ফ্যাক্টর হচ্ছে যে সামটাইমস দে ডোন্ট নো এনি বেটার। হ্যাঁ, তো সেক্ষেত্রে আপনি যদি চান যে আপনি ম্যানেজ সার্ভিসে যাবেন অথবা আপনি মান্থলি কন্ট্রাক্টে যাবেন তখন আপনি বুঝাতে পারেন, কিন্তু কাস্টমারের সিস্টেমটাও বুঝতে হবে। যেমন আমি যদি একটা এক্সাম্পল দিই, ওয়ান অফ দ্য টপ টেলকোতে আমরা ফিক্সড প্রাইস প্রজেক্টে ফার্স্ট কাজ করেছি এবং তারপরে গ্র্যাজুয়ালি আমরা টাইম অ্যান্ড ম্যাটেরিয়াল অথবা মান্থলি কন্ট্রাক্টে গিয়েছি বিকজ কন্টিনিউয়াস রিকোয়ারমেন্ট আসছে আর কি। সো কিন্তু এটা কিন্তু ডে ওয়ানে যদি পুশ করতে থাকি দিস উইল নট ওয়ার্ক। সো উই হ্যাভ টু আন্ডারস্ট্যান্ড দ্য সিস্টেম। অ্যান্ড ওইটা আর কি যে ব্রুসলির যে ভিডিওটা আমরা দেখেছি, হ্যাঁ, যে অ্যাডপ্টিং দ্য রিয়েলিটি আর কি। এখন ব্যাপার যেটা যে ক্লায়েন্টের ফিক্সড প্রাইস দরকার, হ্যাঁ, ক্লায়েন্টের তো ফিক্সড প্রাইস দরকার, কিন্তু ক্লায়েন্টের কিন্তু আবার ভার্সন 1 খুব কুইকলি লঞ্চ করা দরকার। এখন ফিক্সড প্রাইস প্রজেক্ট ক্লায়েন্ট কিন্তু লোকে যে রিকোয়ারমেন্ট লক করতে পারতেছে না। ফিক্সড প্রাইস প্রজেক্ট কিন্তু ক্লায়েন্ট রিকোয়ারমেন্ট লক করতে পারবে না। তাকে যদি একটা 500 পেজের একটা রিকোয়ারমেন্ট দিয়ে দেন যে ভাই সাইন করে দেন, এখন তো চ্যাটজিপিটির ফলে 500 পেজের একটা রিকোয়ারমেন্ট বানাইতে 2 দিনও করা যায় আর কি, কিন্তু তারপরে কিন্তু ক্লায়েন্ট ওইটা পড়ে দেখতে পারবে না, ইভেন আপনার পক্ষেও পড়ে দেখা ডিফিকাল্ট, তাই না? সো সেই জায়গাটাতে আমাদের মানে আমরা সেই জায়গাটাতে যেটা ব্যাপার যে আপনি যে স্টেজ গেটেড একটা লকড রিকোয়ারমেন্ট নিয়ে কাজ করবেন সেটা কিন্তু খুব ডিফিকাল্ট। যে সাপোজ ক্লায়েন্টের একটা 1 বছরের প্রজেক্ট, সেটার ফার্স্ট ভার্সনটা লাইভ দরকার 3 মাসের মধ্যে। এবং 3 মাসের মধ্যে যে ফার্স্ট ভার্সনটা লাইভ দরকার, আপনার তো রিকোয়ারমেন্ট যদি লক করতে হয়, রিকোয়ারমেন্ট লক করতে তো আপনার 4 মাস সময় লেগে যাবে, তাহলে তো আপনি ফার্স্ট ভার্সন করতে পারছেন না। সো আবার আপনি যদি লকও করেন তারপরেও দেখা যায় যে আপনি লক করতেছেন রিকোয়ারমেন্ট, কিন্তু লক করার পরে তারপরে দেখা যাচ্ছে কি যে রিকোয়ারমেন্ট স্টিল চেঞ্জ হইতেছে, তাই না? রিকোয়ারমেন্ট তারপরেও চেঞ্জ হতে থাকতেছে, তো তখন তো আপনি লক করে তো লাভ হচ্ছে না। সো লক করার ফলে রেদার আপনার ফ্রাস্ট্রেশন বাড়তে থাকছে। সো সেই জায়গাটাতে আমি একটা কেস স্টাডি শেয়ার করি যে আমরা ওয়ান অফ দ্য টপ টেলকোর সাথে কাজ করছিলাম, 40+ মিলিয়ন ইউজার টেলকোর। এটা যে 1 বছরের প্রজেক্ট, কিন্তু ওদের মোবাইল অ্যাপ ইমিডিয়েটলি বানানো দরকার, বিকজ এক্সিস্টিং একটা সিস্টেম থেকে নতুন সিস্টেমে মাইগ্রেশন হচ্ছে। সো এক্সিস্টিং সিস্টেমের সব ফিচার খুব কুইকলি আমাদের লঞ্চ করতে হবে। সো 3 মাসের মধ্যে লঞ্চ করতে হবে। বাজেট ফিক্সড, কিন্তু ক্লায়েন্ট এসআরএস সাইন অফ করতে পারবে না, বিকজ সে তো সিএফওর কাছ থেকে বাজেট পাচ্ছে পুরো প্রজেক্টের জন্য। তার ভার্সন 1 লাইভ দরকার ইমিডিয়েটলি। ভার্সন 1 এর রিকোয়ারমেন্ট সে হয়তো বা টু সাম এক্সটেন্ট লক করতে পারবে, ভার্সন 1 এর রিকোয়ারমেন্টও সে পুরোপুরি লক করতে পারবে না, আর পুরো প্রজেক্টের রিকোয়ারমেন্ট তো লকই করতে পারবে না। সো কাস্টমার চাচ্ছে ফিক্সড প্রাইস, কিন্তু স্কোপ ফিক্স না। কাস্টমার ফিক্সড প্রাইস চাচ্ছে কিন্তু স্কোপ ফিক্স না। হোয়াট ডু ইউ ডু? এবং লিটারালি এরকম হয়েছে যে আমরা এসআরএস বানায় পাঠায় ক্লায়েন্টকে বলছি যে সাইন অফ করে দাও, হ্যাঁ, ক্লায়েন্ট বলতেছে যে সাইন অফ করবো না। তো সে যে আমরা বলতেছি যে তাহলে প্রজেক্ট বন্ধ রাখি, তারপরে ক্লায়েন্ট আমাকে নক দিছে যে হ্যাঁ, এই তোমার টিম বলতেছে যে প্রজেক্ট বন্ধ রাখবে, তোমরা কমিট করছো যে ভার্সন 1 3 মাসের মধ্যে লাইভ হতে হবে। সো আমরা কিন্তু অলরেডি কন্ট্রাক্ট করে ফেলছি যে ভার্সন 1 3 মাসের মধ্যে লাইভ হবে। ওকে ওকে, sorry, thank you. So we have a new guest from Nepal, so we will be continuing the rest of the discussion in English. You all understand English really well, so no problem. So because so what was happening is that the client cannot sign off the SRS, but it has to be fixed price project. Now what happened is we delivered the project, made the client really happy, and we are still working with the project. However, we have learned some very expensive lesson. How expensive? The project ended up losing like around $150,000. So the actual budget was $120,000. So $120,000 was the budget, and we ended up losing more than $150,000 budget. So we ended up spending to $70,000. So you can imagine the kind of loss that we had to go through. But the thing was that I have been always agile believer. I mean, from the very beginning, since 2004, I have been following agile. So the philosophies I really embodied, but there are small nuances that I missed. And for those small misses, actually, we ended up losing that penny. And that is what we have learned, and that is what I will try to explain today. So these were like $150,000 learning that I'm going to share for free. And it was, I mean, I am PMP certified and CSM certified. So fortunately, I am PMP version 6 certified. So version 6 is more prescriptive than version 7, the new one. New one is more principle driven. So you have to define everything by yourself. But version 6 was a little bit more prescriptive. So that was really helpful for me to come up with the solution. And we have come up with the solution now. Now we are delivering fixed price project, making clients happy, and also making a little bit of profit. And not only international, we are making domestic clients also happy, delivering projects on time in budget. I mean, before our team has achieved it, I would not have believed that this is possible. I was philosophically thinking, but now with conviction, I can say that this is possible. So this is what I am trying to share here. So the concept is the power of stage-gated agile. Stage-gated agile as in, so stage-gate is a term for waterfall. And we often feel that waterfall and agile is opposite. But like before today's session, I was thinking that Scrum Master and Product Owner cannot be same person. Scrum Police is going to come and handcuff me, right? So, but when you understand the philosophy, then you understand the value of the different systems. So then I am going to explain how we are going to do. So this is where we combine PMP, the project management professional knowledge, Scrum process, and Kanban process knowledge. Now, regarding the water concept, we have to understand the system. We have to understand the system, then only we can improve the system. And the improvement has to be like small amount and gradual, so that it does not make anybody unhappy. And also, of course, it does not interrupt everything. Otherwise, there is lot of resistance. So at first, what happens on the client side? There is the BRD or RFP or RFQ. So, for example, when there is a fixed price project, of course, there is a RFQ or a tender document that, hey, these are the requirements. So, from this requirement, vendor submits the proposal, and from the proposal, then the work order is assigned. And after the work order, there is the agreement, right? So, these four stages are actually customer process. And you cannot change the customer process, right? Because that is the system. Like if you remember the picture of yesterday, the water flowing through the stones, right? The stones are like are the systems that you cannot change, right? So these are the systems. And then the FRD, SRS sign off. This is often the vendor side process, that the vendor would try to lock the customer with the FRD and SRS. And then, of course, the development starts, UAT starts, and then we go live, right? So this is kind of the, what is the standard system. Now, customer cannot be changed, like I said. So the RFQ, or so from RFQ to vendor proposal to work order, this has to stay the same. Now, the agreement is between so this is one very important part. This is one very critical part that I actually missed, and Juhir Bhai, PMP consultant, he actually brought this in. That once we have submitted the work order and client has given the purchase order, then once we have submitted the proposal, then the client has given the work order or purchase order. Then after that, there is a stage which is the agreement stage. In this agreement stage, we can actually have we can actually log that what was the RFQ, what was the BRD the client was referring to, and what was our proposal. Based on client BRD and based on our proposal, we define the product backlog. So this is from your PMP knowledge, we can use the work breakdown structure, WBS. This has to be comprehensive. This does not have to be conclusive, but this has to be comprehensive. So what do I mean by that? So for example, when you say that in the login screen or in the sign up screen, the following 10 fields needs to be there, the client will not sign that. Client will be like uncomfortable to sign all the details. However, the client has given the requirement that the sign up, there has to be a sign up page, right? Now, what are the fields of the sign up page that the client cannot confirm at this stage? So from this, within a very small amount of time after you have received the work order, define an agreement, and in the agreement define the items that is written in the BRD and in your proposal. Now you can say that why don't I write only the BRD, the RFQ that the client has said. What happens is client would be writing some of the items which are a client would be writing all their expectations, but based on their client expectation, some of the items you have to actually imagine, or you have to actually understand that what are the hidden items that you have to add in order to deliver the client expectation, right? So based on that, you have submitted the proposal, and in the proposal for each line item, you have the estimations done. So I would recommend the transparency of bringing all this list and your expected story point or mandates in that. so that this agreement serves you the purpose that these are the line items. So these product backlog are the line items which works as WBS, and they're having the ID for each of the item, so that then you can always refer to the agreement that, hey, ID number 1 is done, or ID number 1.1. Under ID number 1, suppose maybe later client says that, hey, I do not agree that the sign up is done, because yes, the sign up is done, but for this version, but I need a improved sign on for later. Then you can say that, okay, sign up for version 1.1 is done. So under sign up, the version 1.1 is suppose for version 1, and 1.2 is for the future version. So suppose for version 1, there was suppose 10 mandates or 10 story point assigned. So then you can say that, okay, let us agree that under 1 there was 10 mandates. Under that, suppose 1.1 is 5 mandates. So the 5 mandates work, you can actually confirm that, hey, this 5 mandates work is done. What happened for this case study that I shared earlier, where we have learned lesson, right? There, since we were not getting the UAT sign up done from the client, then we were not being able to analyze and come to the same page with the client. So that is why, and also we cannot refer to anything, because if we say that, hey, it was in your RFQ, then the client can say that, hey, yes, but there were other items that were in your proposal. You cannot refer to the proposal, because client will say that, hey, yes, it is your proposal, but we have agreed for the budget. The work order is only for the budget. So that is why this agreement phase. This agreement phase is part of your planning phase, which is the part of your stage gate process or the PMP process, where you said that in the planning phase we would do the agreement. Without agreement, we will not start the project. But this agreement phase has to be very small. For example, if you want to, in the traditional sense, if you want to have the total SRS sign up, total SRS locked, then it may take 3 months time, 4 months time. But if you want to have the only agreement done and comprehensive line items done, it can be done in 1 to 2 weeks time, right? So then quickly the agreement done, quickly the planning phase done. Before the planning phase is completed, do not start the development, preferably. Because if you start the development, then you can get locked, right? So this works as your scope baseline. So that is what I was saying, that the using of the PMP knowledge. So once you have the agreement done, in parallel you try to have not the complete SRS locked in, rather just the SRS part 1 or SRS sprint 1 to be signed off. That, hey, yes, in this coming sprint, we will be delivering these 2 stories. So since we would be delivering these 2 stories, if you cannot sign this off, how can I start the development, right? So there, in this area, you have to be really strict that, hey, please sign off this. Because if you are not confirmed that I need to develop this, then why should we start development? This is still, we are in the planning phase. Still, we have not started the development. So there, in this phase, this would be a red flag if the client does not agree for this SRS part 1 or sprint 1-2 item to be signed off. In this planning phase, still we have not entered the Scrum process. Still we have not started any sprint. You can think of this is as sprint 0. In this phase, the designer is involved. The business analyst is involved. The designer and business analyst together defines the sprint 1 and 2 items, the design finalized, the requirement finalized, and this is signed off. This is locked. Any change that happens in this part
has to go through change request. So you have to have the understanding with the client. Now, all the changing of requirements of the items that are not here defined is possible. So changing requirement is possible, but not in this first 2 sprints. So when you have a clear understanding during this planning phase, the client would be happier and you would be happier. Like like the previous presenter was saying, that the ultimate thing is the happiness. Life is a journey, right? We have to work and we have to be happy, right? So that is why this is something which is very important, and you may decide to back off at this stage, that if you see that the client will not confirm any requirement at all, because then this is a big red flag. Now, when you have started the project and 4 months has gone by, if you back off, that is like really bad. But when you have started the project and in 1 week you clarify with the client that, hey, you are not agreeing to just sign off this sprint one, then how can we deliver? So I think that this may not work. So only this part is rigid. Now, of course, you have to keep in mind the client's success and happiness, because otherwise, I mean, ultimately the relationship will continue with the client for a really long time. So the client's success and happiness is very important. It may happen that you cannot actually decide to back off. Then this is a learning that this client, for this client, the feature finalization is going to be very challenging, and the client has very high expectation of the design, because at this phase you can realize that, hey, maybe you have thought about doing a simple ERP implementation, but then you see that the client is continuously asking for changing in the design of the ERP. Now, changing of the design of the ERP is a very challenging thing. Then you realize that your estimation is way far. You are thinking about small customization and small configuration, but the client is expecting big development and from the scratch kind of development. So then you realize that your estimation was wrong. Then you can discuss with the client. Now, it may happen that despite all this understanding, you realize that there would be big loss, but still you want to continue because you understand the client lifetime value is more important than the loss that you are incurring. So then you may continue. So this is a balance that as a project manager, as a product owner, you have to actually take. I mean, from the last presentation, you must have realized that the product owner would be focusing on the product success, and a Scrum Master is focusing on the employee success, right? So you have to take the call and you have to discuss with the leadership team that, hey, we are seeing that the project is going to be in loss. Are we aligned with this? And then the stakeholder or your leadership team might agree that, hey, we understand. And then in this planning phase, you have the final estimations done. Because you have done the SRS signed off for part 1, part 2, and then you have a very clear understanding how the client is, what is the behavior of the client, whether the client is very picky. I have faced such client who would be zooming in my delivery 1200% and say that, hey, Raisul, kichhui to hoy nai. So, kichu hoy nai, what is the gap? So Raisul, see, I have put 2 pixel difference between these 2 lines. Here are 3 pixels. What the hell? Nothing is done. Now, that is one client, and then there is another client who was saying that, hey, I want this and this, and I realized that this change would take like 1 week time. But I understood the value the client is looking for, and I I proposed a solution where it will not be exactly like the client, but it delivers the value. The client agrees that, hey, yeah, this is fine. Then we actually did the change, and it was like a 5-minute change. So one is 5-minute change versus one is 1 week long change. So different client has different expectation. As a thumb rule, if a project is for the end client of the client, then generally you need to spend a lot of time. If the product is going to be used by suppose more than 100 people or more than 1,000 people, then it is going to need a lot of time, because you need to do a lot of customizations, and you have to meet the client expectation by the pixel. However, if a product is an internal product, then generally it does not have to do a lot of design customization. So these are your knowledge from your product owner background or project management background, and from your experience that which item would take how much time. But in this planning phase, you have to have the estimations finalized. It can happen that maybe the sales has signed up for the project for suppose 600 man days. But in this planning phase, as a project manager, as a product owner, you realize that it will not be delivered in 600 man days, it will need 1200 man days. If you go to the leadership team and say that, hey, sales has signed this up for 600 man days, but this will actually take 1200 man days, then the leadership team can hold you accountable for 1200 days. The leadership team cannot hold you accountable for 600 days, because you are raising this flag at the beginning of the project, right? So this planning phase is critically important. In the Scrum books, in the Scrum process, this planning phase is never actually addressed. So this comes from the stage-gated approach, that once this stage is done, and this is gated. Once this stage is done and you complete this stage, then you go through the gate and you go to the next stage. So that is why this part, this small part of planning, this is kind of the stage gate. So in this planning phase, we would be planning the milestones, right, with the sprints. So since we are re-estimating all the items, but keeping in mind that for the re-estimation, we are not actually finalizing the requirements. Rather, in this stage, we are actually focusing the approximate estimations. We have learned the design expectation from the client. We have learned how the client operates. We have learned the stakeholders of the client, that, hey, there are too many stakeholders involved, so this can take a lot of time. So based on this, the estimations are updated based on the team's experience, right? So there you also, as a project manager, you keep a buffer. However, keep the buffer as a buffer item separately. Do not keep it in each stories or each items, because what happens is there is this Parkinson law that your work is expanded to the time allocated. So suppose a work can be done in 1 day, but you have allocated 2 days, then it may expand to 2 days. So that is why the buffer should not be in the item. However, practical factor is that you may have some unforeseen requirements which are needed, and you may have some other situations, so you have to keep a buffer. But that buffer should have another item. So for example, in the WBS list, one item was, suppose item number 1 was suppose sign up. Item number 2 suppose was login with suppose OAuth authentication and everything. And then maybe item number 100 is buffer. And in the buffer you keep suppose 20 days. So you know that this is your buffer. Your leadership team knows that this is your buffer. Even your client may know that this is your buffer, and this is fine. So when you create transparency with the client starts to trust you. And there is a reciprocal trust between the client and the development team, that the client sees that, hey, the company has kept a buffer for unforeseen requirements. Then you can have a discussion that, hey, this is a new unforeseen requirement, let me add it here, and this becomes the buffer. So this is one important thing, that as a project manager you keep buffer, but the buffer would be a separate item. And this is actually not my statement, keeping the buffer separate. This is uh, retrospective কাটটা জানি সাইন আপ করলা হ্যাঁ ওই যে রেট্রোস্পেক্টিভে সাইন আপ করলা কোন লোকটার নাম জানি কি I forgot Mountain Gate software হ্যাঁ Martin Flower নাকি আচ্ছা anyway so I forgot suddenly the name popped out of my head but he is a MikeCon, right, MikeCon. So MikeCon actually suggested this. So if you are not signed up for his newsletter, I would invite you all to sign up because there is like lot of wisdom in his subscription email. I love what he shares. I have been following him for many years now, and every time I get some new knowledge. So this is from there. So here is a reminder about the Agile Manifesto. I always continue to continuously go back and find the wisdom here. For example, yesterday someone was sharing that individuals and interactions, we are not focusing on this enough. Individuals and interactions, this is critically important, right? Individual people are important and the interaction is important over processes and tools. Working software over comprehensive documentation. I have received calls from client that, hey, we have given this project over 1 year to a software company and they have delivered us the documentation. No software. I mean, real situation. Because the vendor was trying to lock the customer with the requirement. But actually, we have to keep in mind that working software is very important over comprehensive documentation. That client is now asking us to deliver the software. Now imagine 1 year has passed and you have delivered 50% of the software and the client is getting value from 50% of the software. Then will the client be able to go to any other vendor? You will not be able to. But after 1 year, you have the documentation completely signed off, but you do not have a working software. Then the client can go to any vendor. So I continuously go back to these 4 Agile Manifesto principles and I love the wisdom in these 4 small sentences. However, I have come to realize that one word here is wrong. That is the working software. Because I have come to realize that Scrum or Agile process is not only for software development. This is for anything. Your organization management, your HR process, your marketing, this can be anything. So that is why working value over comprehensive documentation, but everything else is applicable. And continuously I see different angle and value from this. So that is why I want to remind about this, that whenever you have a doubt that should I go this way or that way, go to the manifesto and see. For example, customer collaboration over contract negotiation. Whenever you see that you are fighting with the client for the requirements, then or the contract, then go back to this, that customer collaboration is more important over contract negotiation. But this is over, not instead of. It does not say that customer collaboration instead of contract negotiation. It does not mean that you do not make any contract. It says that you make a contract, but more important is customer collaboration. So then the normal Scrum process starts. So when this normal Scrum process starts, you have your product owner and BA finalize. And so when the Scrum process starts, you have the sprint planning. After the sprint planning, the development starts. The development team starts the development. During that time, the project manager or the product owner, along with business analyst, this is critically important that you design for the next sprint and try to get sign off of the next sprint, SRS. So SRS part 2 or SRS sprint 2, sprint 3. So you have continuously signed off SRS, but you do not sign off the complete SRS. Rather, you sign off part of the SRS. So you sign off part of the SRS, that way you get your projects continuously delivered, meeting the expectation of the client, because the customer has signed off SRS. So you can always, because I was facing this story that one software company, they have delivered the entire software to a large organization, and the large organization is using the software. They're generating bills, and they're generating crores of Dhaka from the software. However, the client is not paying any penny to the vendor, because the client, when the vendor is asking that please pay us, then the client is saying that where is the SRS? So there was no SRS, and there was no SRS signed off. So that is why SRS has to be signed off just in part instead of whole. So different is get the SRS signed off, but in part, not in whole. Then you do the sprint planning, you do the, so one important part is the backlog grooming, which I have not covered in the presentation. During the backlog grooming, you were discussing with the client about the next sprint and the future releases. Maybe client has some changes in the future release and everything. Those discussions are part of the backlog grooming process. And then the project, then your sprint is completing, and when the sprint is completing, then you have the sprint review meeting. In the sprint review meeting, you show the client the value. Hey, I got your SRS signed off. These are the items where I got your SRS signed off, and these are the deliveries of the SRS signed off. If you do not have the SRS signed off, then what do you compare against? So you have the SRS signed off, and you are saying that, hey, dear client, you have given the detailed requirement of these 5 items. And out of these 5 items, these 3 items I am showing, and you show it. And maybe you video record it, and then if the client is happy with the 3 items, you have a happy product backlog. How is the product backlog happy? This is how the product backlog is happy. I often go to projects and say that, hey, how much of the project is done? We feel that 30% of the project is done. How do you feel? This is my gut feeling, and my gut never says wrong. When I entered into the telco project, in the middle of the project, I asked the project manager, what percentage of the project is done? He is saying that 88% of the project is done. When I go to the client, what percentage of the project is done? The client is saying, I don't think 30% of the project is done. This is the same story always, right? But when you have the SRS signed off, and you have done the sprint demo, then if the client is happy, then you have the UAT signed off. Of course, then based on the organization policy and customer collaboration agreement, maybe payment cycle can be initiated that, hey, 2 sprints are delivered, so milestone 1 is delivered, can you pay for this? Maybe or maybe not. So based on this, now Scrum process works with the development part. However, there are certain aspects of project management which is not covered in the Scrum process, which is covered in the PMP process, because PMP deals with the fixed price projects, right? Because you know the definition of project. A project must have a start and must have an end, right? So that is why you have a definition, you have a completion, right? So from the PMP process, you then take the advantage of the monitoring and control phase, that using the performance baseline of the estimated story point and delivered items where the UAT is signed off, you have the completed percentage, right? So you have to stay vigilant and measure, but use the learnings for the future. So here what I mean is that, suppose you have the UAT signed off, So maybe you have the project of 1200 man days. Out of that, maybe 100 man days of UAT is signed off. Then or for the easier of mathematics, let us consider that the project is 1000 man days, okay? So out of 1000 man days, 100 man days of the project is UAT signed off. Then when you have the UAT signed off, then you can say that 10% of the project is complete. And you can always place this with the client that, hey, based in this agreement, we have estimated this to be 1000 man days. And out of this, that you have SRS signed off for 200 man days. And out of the 200 man days, these are the 100 man days of work done. So you have 10% of the project done. This was the mistake that we did. We actually delivered the project. Our value for Brain Station is customer and employee success and happiness. So we have made the customer successful and happy. We have launched the project in 3 months and we have made the project successful. The project is live. But we do not have any mandates of SRS signed off, any mandates of UAT signed off. So then the client is saying that not even 30% of the project is complete, and we are saying that 80% of the project is complete. But when you are getting the UAT signed off, now the client and you are in the same page, right? So that is why this is critically important factor. So this is kind of the final slide, that your commitment is a commitment, you know, because based on your commitment, actually the whole world works. If I give you an example, you commit that you will deliver in 3 months. You will make version 1 live in 3 months. Based on your commitment, the client's project manager has committed to his manager. The manager has committed to his manager. And his manager has committed to his manager. Now, if you fail on your commitment, then everybody fails. Right? And then a promotion may get stuck. Right? So this is, I mean, the whole world is actually built on this. The honesty, integrity, commitment, these are extremely critically important factor of the human life and the whole economy and everything, you know. So that is why the commitment is always a commitment. I remember once I gave a project to another vendor because we were like, suddenly we got too many projects. Middle of the project, the vendor said that, Raisul bhai, we cannot do it, and we will refund your money. But then we have already committed to the client for delivery, and already half of the time has passed. So since then, I have never given him project because I do not know how this can actually repeat, right? So, and that is why you can say that, hey, Raisul bhai, are you stupid or something? Why would you lose $150,000 for a project worth $120,000? Because we have committed to deliver the project. So no matter what, we will deliver the project. Once one of our client was abusive with our team, and I saw multiple team member cry with the behavior of the client. But since we have committed, we delivered the project, but we never took any other project from that client. So when we have committed, then we would deliver. And this is a very important baseline for anything. And that is why Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says in our Quran that a commitment has to be kept, right? So that is why this is critically important, that when we have committed, we would deliver. Now, so that is why during the backlog grooming, you might find that although you have took the project for 600 man days, and as a project manager, you have agreed for 1200 man days, but even now, due to the changing of requirements, the project is going to take 1500 man days. So the project is going to face a severe loss. But since we have committed, then we will try to deliver. Of course, we can discuss with the client and say that, hey, I am facing significant loss. Can you do something about it? When you have been transparent, and you have been following the Agile Manifesto, you are focusing on customer collaboration over contract negotiation, the client has a trust with you, then actually you have, you know that the client will often rely and agree that, hey, yes, I understand the changes of requirement, so I will give you additional CR. And sometimes it may happen that it is not possible. For example, if you are doing a government contract, government software development projects cannot actually embrace CR because government procurement is very complex. So during that time, as an experienced project manager, you take your learning that for government project, you have to plan for lot of CR ahead that the client will not. So you add potential CR as a line item, right? As a new line item, you keep potential CR, and you may have a lot of mandates there. Now, reality may hit that no, it is not possible to actually put that in the contract. Potential CR, buffer, it is not possible to put it in agreement. So there actually my disclaimer comes into play that for different projects, different reality can kick in. So, and from your experience also, you can come to the, but maybe with the client you have the, I mean, as project manager, you have the clear estimations, right? So yeah, that is all that I had. Thank you, everyone. I think that, yeah, thank you. So coming back to the question that Bhaya asked about that part, I think that two extremely important aspects of Scrum that I want to bring to your attention. One is the backlog grooming. That allocate enough time for backlog grooming where you are bringing in the relevant stakeholders in the discussion, right? So when you have a very in-depth backlog grooming meeting with the client and you are updating about the future stories, then the potential challenges would stop. And another is that PMP knowledge about the project initiation stage, where you are supposed to, as a project manager, you are entitled to receive the RFQ, the proposal, everything, right? And based on that, you are going to make the agreement. So that is why, what was the intent? It is already known to you as project manager, and you are entitled for it. Now, the organization policy may interject, then you have to think and improve. So this is one part. Another very important part that I actually learned yesterday, which is that the team is actually owner for the delivery. So what I mean by that is, suppose all these things, me being the CEO, I have written all these things, right? So I have been thinking that how can I solve the problem? And that has been wrong from my side. I, as the CEO, is not supposed to actually think. The team, in retrospective, need to discuss and decide that what do I need to do so that the project is successful, so that the customer is happy. So the retrospective discussion that we had in the first day meeting, the Todd Little, right? So the Todd Little video, I would invite to review and learn really well about the retrospective. You continuously define your process and you continuously act and improve your process. And that is how you have a complete feedback loop and continuously make everybody's life happier, right? So that is why I think that this is critically important, that we actually, I mean, Scrum process has very little number of artifacts, right? The sprint planning, the backlog grooming, the retrospective, very small number of items. PMP has like 40, PMP 6 version 6 had like 49 items. and Scrum has like altogether 10 items or even less. So understanding the value of the items and really embracing the value, then actually continuously you have the things done better. Yeah. Yeah. Thank you. A question?
Yeah, Raisul bhai, I have actually two questions. One question is about buffer you mentioned.
Right.
The question is sometimes we have, as you mentioned, abusive stakeholders in the team. So in that case, proper transparency is actually that makes difficult. That actually hampers the life of team members.
Right.
So in that case, we often try to keep buffer on each item. So this is actually little bit different from the actual approach that you mentioned, but should we actually keep doing it?
Right. So there, couple of things I want to mention. Number one is that sometimes client is abusive because the client does not trust you and you do not trust the client. Sometimes we have failed to deliver on time or in budget, and that has made the client unhappy. Or sometimes you may have not failed, but others have failed. And when others have failed, the client has created a pattern that, hey, we cannot trust software vendors. So that is how sometimes the client is actually very client is a little bit or sometimes very abusive. So one part is that realizing the system that, hey, client can have bad experience. So from that, the client is abusive, but when I create a different experience, then the client will know that this is a different kind of software vendor who can be trusted. So since this vendor can be trusted, I actually collaborate with the so that is why when you bring extreme level of transparency and when you bring the extreme level of customer collaboration, when you are responding to change, a feature that you have not worked on, the client is asking to change, and you are positively addressing this. These are building client trust. And then one potential change is that the client will become less abusive and client would start being more transparent, more collaborative. This is one part. Another is that still client may continue to abuse, then call it off. For one of our experience, it has happened that the client is continuously unhappy. Then I sent an email to the client that, hey, I understand that you are unhappy and I am very sorry about it. Can you point me to a software company where you have been very happy? Then I can try to learn from it. Then what happened is client did not respond to that email, and since then the client has never complained, because the client realized that yes, I am unhappy, but yes, no other vendor is better. And then the third one is, like I said, that sometimes you have to fire the client, because life is a journey. You have to be happy and the client has to be happy. So that is why if you see that despite your continuous try and explaining the client, for example, once I sent an email to a client that I see that you are from Western world and you are thinking of us as slave. So if you think of us in this way, we cannot be partners. Can we collaborate better? Sometimes calling this off, that actually helps. So number one, being transparent and try to make the client happy. Number two, still if it does not work, then politely but firmly explain to the client that, hey, I am feeling this. You are doing this. From this, I am feeling this. Can we come to sometimes calling this off actually helps. Third is that then there is a situation that you have to fire the client. Fourth, critically important, extremely important, that I am not God. I do not know everything. I do not know all the situations. So that is why the first page disclaimer, that what I am suggesting here is for certain situation. In certain situation, you cannot do anything. And you have to embrace that, yes, for each line item, I have buffer. However, as project manager, you have to know that what is the buffer and what is the real item and real estimation, and you have to have clear communication with the leadership team about that. That hey, this is my real estimation, and with the client you have a separation of transparency that hey, the transparency will not work with this specific situation. So that is why the disclaimer that it does not apply to everything.
Yeah.
Thank you.
I have a second question, sorry.
Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah.
Okay, I'll talk.
Yes, yes. Sure. Yeah. So our session ends here. Thank you very much for being engaging audience. And if you have any question during the lunchtime, I am here, and we can continue the discussion here. Yes. Right. 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 Yeah. No, you do not have to lock the requirement. So, so the question is that sometimes client gives a very vague requirement, a very small amount of requirement. There is only BRD. There is not even RFQ. There is no line item. There is only BRD, right? So this is a 1-2 page requirement. And during this time, then what do we do? So one part is that from experience, you try to write down the line items. And from your experience, define the estimation of the items. And based on that, you send the proposal. Based on different situation, you have trust with the client that you know what is the client type and you know how much risk you want to take. From sales team, you have an idea about the budget, and based on that, you define and send the proposal. And from the proposal sending till the agreement, from the proposal sending till the agreement, there is generally at least 1 month time. During this time, you further refine. So before the agreement, you have a somewhat comprehensive line item list. So from this comprehensive line item list, you can then discuss with the client that, hey, I have sent this proposal. Can we update the proposal to this? Or can we remove some of the line items? When you are doing heavy customer collaboration, then there is a trust. So based on this, then the client may agree or client may not disagree, you can decide. So this is a little bit part of the experience as tech lead and project manager team combined, that hey, this is kind of the estimation or different compromise also. If I give you an example, we were working for a client for a this was a cloud investment kind of thing, right? So we realized that this can be made with a very simple e-commerce customization. So based on the discussion with the client, we can actually plan that how this can be delivered very quickly, because you have that discussion, you estimating stuffs like that. So you are not potentially writing the requirements in every details. Rather, you are defining the line items, and you based on that you are actually doing. But main thing is about this is that from your experience, you are bringing in the line items and the estimation of the line items and keeping trace of the line items as the product backlog or WBS.